Okay, good morning. Sorry for the delay, no? Kasi nag-error na naman yung laptop. Anyways, we'll be discussing on the permutations. So, bale, isang topic na lang yung kulang, no? After these permutations, we'll be discussing on the normal subgroups and yung counting cosets. So, it will be discussed by next week. And next week, which is May 28, will be our last Google Meetups, okay? So, last Google Meetups na po natin next week. So, we will not meet anymore on the first week of June and on the second week of June. Second week of June will be your final exam, but I will give me until Sunday, no, to give the final exam. So, hanggang second week of June po yung deadline nun. Okay, final exam and the other, yung isang problem set para sa inyong requirements. Parang is a sort of your portfolio, but you will not submit it a hard copy, but you will send it through attaching it in your Google Classroom, okay? So, give me until Sunday. And the activities for the permutations will be given. Kasama na lahat-lahat, no? Kasi ini-encode ko naman siya. The problem set for the final exam, the problem set for the portfolio, as well as your activities for the permutation. Okay. So permutations, no, we're done with the previous topic, which is the cyclic. Okay. So, permutations na po tayo. Wait. Okay, so what is a permutation? So, mayroon akong binigay na last meeting, no, yung kanyang video clips and then an essay. So, may questions po sa akin regarding yung mali kasi yung aking forms doon, nilagay ko after watching the movie, define cyclic groups. Actually, tapos na pa tayo sa cyclic, so hindi ko na-erase yan, no? So, actually, since video siya ng permutation, so, ang pinapa-define ko po is permutation. So, if may na-correct, na-error doon, sorry for that. Okay,
Na-submit
Aida?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes?
na-submit na kasi na mo open ulit.
Hindi na-submit na. Sige. So, I will
Opo, ma'am.
try to, yung mga nag-answer na ng cyclic group, no, I will try to,
Sorry, ma'am.
it's okay lang. I will try to remove your answers and then mamayang hapon, try nyo ulit tingnan kung pwede na kayo mag-submit ulit, ha? Kasi i-remove ko muna yung answers nyo para ma-open nyo ulit siya. Okay? Thank you for that, Aida. Okay. Okay, so, welcome. Okay, so, okay now, no? So, going back to the definition. So, permutation is a rearrangement of the elements of a set. So, yun po yung parang arrangement, meron siyang arrangement, tapos i-rearrange lang po natin yung kanyang elements sa isang set. Okay, that is a permutation. Let A be a set. So, a permutation of or a permutation on A is simply a bijection. So, we all know yung bijection, no, sa ating functions in a specific, yung definition ng function na bijection function sa ating previous sa isang topic, sa isang subject, no. Function of bijection function is a one-to-one mapping to itself lang. So, yun. So, kaya nga, meron tayong bijection F, which is A to A. So, mapping to itself, that is a one-to-one correspondence between A and itself. So, yun po yung permutation. Bale, imamap nyo lang yung ngayong sarili, pero there is a rearrangement. Okay. That is the definition, no? Now we have to discuss proposition 1. Yung proposition 1 under permutation, wherein the set SA of a permutation of a set A is a group under function composition. Sinabi niya dito, yung set na daw ito, itong set, is a set daw A, which is a permutation under a group function composition. So later on, malalaman natin yan kung anong ibig sabihin nito. So meron tayong dito proof. So nilagay ko na lang, no, hindi ko na isusulat kasi minsan pag isusulat ko kasi because we don't have yung parang yung comfortable pen, so minsan natatagalan yung pagsulat ko. So sisulat ko na lang and then yun, i-discuss na lang natin para marami tayong time. Okay, so improving this one, no? First, the composition of bijection is a bijection. That is, di ba, we're trying to prove that this SA, which is a permutation of a set A, yung SA daw, represents the permutation of a set A. Yan yung representation niya. So, permutation siya ng set A. So, we will now prove that this permutation of a set A is a group under function composition. So, how we will know that it's a group? Therefore, dapat meron siyang identity, meron siyang inverse, at saka yung kanyang tawag doon sa na yun, isa, associative. Yan. So, the group must, yung, di ba, yung properties natang group is, it must be associative, identity exists, and so with the inverse. So, if, before, we will found out if these three satisfies, and also, yung function composition natin is also a bijection. Kasi, permutations, di ba, kanyang function is a bijection mapping to itself. Okay? So, ngayon. So, improving, so we have here. First, the composition. So, yung composition daw ng function of bijection. So, kasi permutation siya, no? Bijection. Is also bijection. That is, ito daw, the inverse of that one is this one. We all know, no? Diba? Recap tayo sa groups. Wherein, pag kukunin po natin yung inverse, wait lang Yan. Ang inverse niyan, di ba, magiging B inverse, A inverse. So, ganun din yung nangyari dito. The inverse of this one is this one. So, ngayon, bakit siya natawag na bijection? It's because nagmamap lang siya sarili niya and there is a rearrangement of the elements. Instead na omega and P, naging P and omega na siya. And their inverse. Okay? So ngayon, dun po yung ibig sabihin niyan. So therefore, thus, function composition is a binary operation. So, binary operation siya on the set of bijections from A to A. So, there is a set of bijections from A to A. So, you're just mapping, it mapping to itself, and there is a arrangement of the elements. Now, we can say that it is also associative. So, we found out na it satisfies the associative requirements. Diba, we all know that the associative, ibig sabihin, pag more than 3, nag-change siya ng kanyang group. So, yung for example, no, diba, associative yung ganyan. So, magiging iba na din yung group niya. Ganyan. Okay? So, yun po yung ibig sabihin. So, nag-change na siya ng kanyang groupings, ng kanyang positions. Therefore, it is associative. Next, we need to find out if the identity exists. So, meron tayo dito. Then, the identity map, yan, is a permutation of A. So, yung identity daw nito is also a permutation of A and will serve as identity under the function composition. Diba? We all know that identity mapping to itself, diba? Yung identity functions, you're mapping to itself. We all know that permutation is a bijection mapping to itself also. Therefore, it is an identity map. Then, hence, the identity for this function composition exists. Next, we need to find out if the inverse exists also. And since bijective maps have inverses which are bijection, therefore, there exists inverses. Yan. So, kasi nga, di ba, meron siyang inverse. So, yung inverse na yon magbabiject din, magmamap din to its sariling inverses. So, therefore, the inverse is also exists. Kaya nga, sinawag dito, the SA, which is the permutation of a set A, is a group. Group din siya because it is associative, um, um, identity exists, and inverses exist. Okay, so yun po. The permutations of this set A is also a group. Okay, so we go to the next one. Ayan. So medyo yung isang proposition 1, hindi pa siya klaro, no? Pero in the long run, magiging klaro na siya. Dinefine lang natin na si permutations ay pwede ding tawagin na group. Because its function, since it's mapping to itself, therefore, associative siya, meron siyang identity, and meron din po siyang inverses na namakmamap din sa kanyang sariling inverse. Okay? So, we will continue with the definition pa. Okay? So, permutation. So, the composite of any two permutation of A is a permutation of A. Next, the inverse of any permutation of A is a permutation of A. Yun po yung sinasabi. Yung the inverse of any permutation of A, permutation of A din siya. So, mga ganun po yung mga definition. No? Kasi, permutations, diba, we all know that permutations is the rearrangement lang ng kanyang elements. Basta, yung lahat ng elements ay part siya ng A na yan. So, yung SA daw is also called a symmetric group on A. So, bakit symmetric? Because if S has n elements, then ganito po yung kanyang elements. Yan. 1, 2, until n. Okay? Kaya nga siyang tinawag na symmetric group. So, the corresponding symmetric group is denoted by Sn, wherein it is the symmetric groups of n letters. So, ibig sabihin, so, for example, no, meron tayong S9. So, there are 9 elements. So, ganun lang po yun. So, the identity permutation. So, what is this identity permutations? It sends every elements to itself. Yun po yung identity permutation. So, ngayon, meron din tayong term na permutation notation. Yan. Permutation notation is writing a permutation to show where each element goes. So, yun po yung definition ni permutation notation. I-write lang natin yung mga kanyang elements kung saan siya ay pupuntang, kung anong element siya pupunta. Okay, so for example, we have this one, no? And this one is in element of S6. Bakit S6? Because it consists of 6 elements. Okay? Yun po yun. 6 elements because ito, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. itong sa baba, ito yung kanyang mapping. Okay? For example, so what are the permutations? Permutation notation. So yan. Permutation notations are, for example, si omega 1, saan yan pupunta? Omega 1 is equals to 3. Saan yan, ma'am? Ito yan, no? Tapos sa baba niya, yan. Yan, no? Yan. Yung 1 is going to 3. Yung 2 is going to 2. Yung 3 is going to 4. Yung 4 is going to 1. Yung 5 is going to 6. And yung 6 is going to 5. Yan po. Yung sa taas are the elements, and yung sa baba is the elements also, pero yung mapping niya. Okay? So, ganito yung mangyayari sa permutation notation natin. If ever i-ask kayo, what is the permutation notation? So, in getting the identity permutation, so because we're talking about permutation, identity permutation, so dapat ganito lang siya. Lahat ng kanyang elements, o kasi sending every element to itself. So, lahat ng kanyang elements are sending to itself lang. So, 1 is to 1, 2 is to 2, 3 is to 3, 4 is to 4, 5 to 5, 6 to 6. So, lahat ng kanyang elements ay mapping to itself. So, therefore, matatawag na natin siyang identity permutation. Okay? Pero yung kanina, yung dito, kanina, ang element lang na nang-map to itself is the 2. Yan o. Yun po. So, hindi pa siya pwedeng tawagin na identity permutations because there is only one element mapping to itself. Kasi si identity permutation, lahat ng element ay nagmamap to itself. Okay, next. Ayan. For example, we're going to compute a product of permutation. So, mga example lang muna tayo ngayon. Okay. So, yung permutations, no, mostly marami siyang yung parang fun activities where you map. So, konti lang yung kanyang proving. Okay? So, ganito lang siya, no? Computing a product of permutation. So, suppose meron tayong ganito, no? Yung isa, and ito. Okay? So, i-compute natin the product of this one. The product of, if ever, no? Pag sinabing, get the product of theta P and omega. So, ibig sabihin, you're going, yung dulo po, yun po yung unahin, tapos yung first. Ganun po yun, ang pagkuha ng product ng permutations. Kung sino po yung in-announce na huli, yun po mauna. Tapos, kung sino yung nauna, yun po yung mahuli. Kaya nga sinabi dito, no? Since you're getting the product of this one, so it means that we're going to get the omega first, then the theta. So, ano nangyari dito? So, ganito po yan. Ang gagawin natin sa permutation. Wait lang ha, erase ko muna. Ayan. Okay, paano yan? So, unahin natin si omega. So, si omega, sinabi niya 1 is to 2. Ano ang 2 dito? Sa 1 is to 2 siya. So, since dulo siya is 2, so hanapin mo yung 2 sa P. 2 is to 3. Yan. So, therefore, ang 1 is 3. Ganun po. Kasi ganito na lang, no? So, unahin na, wait, paano ba? Okay, ito. So, gagayain muna natin yung P omega, then equals open and close. So, yung sa taas, unahin natin. Ilagay mo 1, 2, 3, 4. Yung to sa baba, yung magiging answers. Okay? So, mag-una tayo kay omega. Omega, 1 is to 2. So, 2 siya. Hanapin 2 ang P. 2 ang P, tapos mapping siya sa 3. So, therefore, ilalagay natin si 3. Ganyan lang po yan. Sample, no? Lagay natin dito para makita nyo talaga. I see it. Sorry, ah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yan. Hindi siya klaro. Wait lang, no? Yan, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, since we have 4 elements. Okay, so, before nyo ilalagay yung sa baba, imamap muna natin. So, 1 is to 2, then 2 is to 3, so 3. Next, ang 2. 2 is to 3, hanapin 3 ang sa P. 3 is to 4. So, lagay natin 4. Next, 3 is to 4, hanapin 4 ang P. 4 is to 2. 2. So, obviously, since 3, 4, 2 na siya, no? Baka obviously 1 siya. So, tingnan mo natin. You cannot put 1 kasi baka minsan bubalik siya sa 4. Kasi meron po tayong parang disjoint cycle. Later on, malalaman natin yan. Okay, 4 is to 1. 1 is to 1. No? Okay, so this one is our answer. So, ganun lang po yung kaganda magkuha ng or mag-compute ng product of permutations. So, sino yung huling sinabi? Siya po yung mauna. Okay? Okay, next. Another example. So, ngayon, we're done with the how to get the product. Now, we go to in getting the inverse of a permutations. So, in finding the inverse of the permutations of this one, no, ito yung hanapin yung inverse sa permutations. So, mangyayari, ganyan. Wait lang. Okay. So, paano to nangyari yan? 5, 3, 1, 4, 2. So, ganito, no? So, in getting the inverse, same pa rin, no? Type. Yan. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, ngayon, paano nakuha natin? Okay. Hinabi dito, the inverse is by simply reading omega upside down. That is, if omega 5 is equals to 1, so negative 1, inverse of 1, omega is 5. Okay, ganun lang din. Okay, next. Tingnan natin, no? Si omega 5, omega 1 is equals to 3. Therefore, the inverse of the 3 is 1. So, lagay mo natin 1. Ano lang? Omega of 2 is 5. Therefore, the inverse of 5 is 2. So, lalagay natin si 5 ng 2. Yan. Next. Omega of 3 is 2. Therefore, the inverse of 2 is 3. So, 2, lagay natin si 3. Next. Omega of 4 is 4. Therefore, the inverse of 4 is also 4. Kasi mapping to itself lang siya. And the last one, omega of 5 is 1. So, the inverse of 1 is 5. So, ilalagay natin dito si 1 na 5. Oh, we have, nakuha na po natin si inverse. O, ganun lang po yung pagkuha ni inverse, ha. Okay? So, ganyan lang po siya. Next. Okay, we're done with 2 examples. So, pupunta na po tayo kay cycles. So, any questions sa examples? Yung kay getting the product and the inverse. So, easy lang po yung pagkuha ni product and inverse, no? Meron lang po siyang pattern na ginagawa. Okay? Okay, so we're done with the permutation. So, actually, permutations, meron din siyang permutations sa finite set. And we will discuss the sort of the definitions na meron dito, and that is the cycles. So, what is a cycle? A cycle is a permutation that can be decomposed into simple parts. It is the most basic kind of permutation. So, a permutation which maps a finite set like this one. Ayan. Okay, so for note, the cycle has length n. So a cycle of length n has order n as an element of this one. Yan. Bakit siya na-false identity? Itong 142 raised to 3. So yan po yung cycle, no? So later on ma-appreciate nyo yung definitions nito kasi hindi pa natin makita yung kanyang sinasabi through here without an example. So mas maganda kasi may examples to. Okay, transposition. Meron din tayong term transposition. So, pag ang cycle mo is a length 2, transposition po yan. So, it is a permutation that swap two elements and leaves everything else fixed. That is, 3, 6 is the transposition that swap 3 and 6. So, paano natin makakuha ang cycle? So, di ba sinabi dito, a permutation that can be decomposed into simple parts. For example, si cycles, ganyan no, 2, 4, 3, 6. Cycles po yan. Pero ito, sample 2, 4. 2, 4 kasi dalawa lang kanyang elements. So therefore, it is called a transposition. Okay? To a cycle of two element, of length 2 or two elements. Okay? Pwede din kasi ang cycles 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4. Ay, wala, may 4 pa pala. 1, 3, 5. Yan. May tatlong elements, okay? So later makikita natin kung anong tsura ni cycles. Okay, for example, so write the cycle 4 to 5 which is an element of S5. Ibig sabihin may 5 elements po siya. So saan napunta si 1 and si 3? Kasi meron lang tayong 4 to 5. Ibig sabihin si 4 to 5, siya lang po yung nag-maps to others. Yung 1 and 3 ay mapping to itself. Tingnan nyo, Lego. Tingnan nyo mamaya. Okay? So, kasi isusulat kasi natin yan sa permutation notation. Ayan. Yan po yung answers. So, paano nangyari nga nan, ma'am? Okay, so isusulat natin, no? So, i-write natin yung cycle in a permutation notation. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ayan. So, wala siyang 3 and 1 sa 4 to 5 itong cycle. So, therefore, it maps to itself. Yung 1 and 3, mapping to itself. So, C4 po, ganun yan, no? Pag cycle, ganun po yan. So, kung dito. 4 maps to 2. 2 maps to 5. Ay, sorry. 2 maps to 5 and 5 maps to 4. Pabalik siya uli. So, kaya nangyari yung ganyan. So, nakuha na natin yung permutation notations ni cycle 4 to 5. So, ganun lang po yung pagkuha. Next. Okay. We write the cycle 4 to 5. Eh, naibigay ko naman to kanina. Data. Sorry for this one. Ginaya ko na naman. Okay, yan. So, paano naman to? For example, opposite na, no? The permutations, i-write natin as a cycle. Paano nakuha to? Okay. Kanya lang po. Lagay natin ganyan, no? Okay. 1 is to 5. So, may isusulat natin uli yung 1. Kasi siya yung mauna. Mapping to 5. O, si 5. Tingnan mo, no? Ang dulo is 5. Tapos, tingnan mo na si 5. 5 mapping to 3. So, lagay mo 3. Tingnan mo yung dulo na si 3. 3 mapping to 4. Lagay mo si 4. Si 4, tingnan dito sa taas. 4 mapping to 2. Tingnan si 2. And si 2, tingnan sa taas. 2 is mapping to 1. So, babalik siya ulit dyan. So, therefore, yung answers natin is 1, 5, 3, 4, 2. So, ganun lang po. Kasi cycle, bumabalik siya. After pag pumunta, nandun na siya sa dulo, bumabalik siya sa unahan. So, in writing that, tingnan nyo yung ating elements sa permutation. So, ganun lang yun sa paggawa ng from the cycle to the permutation, from the permutation to the cycle. Okay, so meron din tayo dito, no? Get the inverse of the cycle. So, finding the inverse of the cycle. So, ito daw, no? Ito yung inverse natin. I mean, ito yung given. So, hanapin yung inverse. Ito daw, no? Ito yon. So, inverse niya will be this one. So, ano nangyari? Sinabi dito, in getting the inverse of a cycle is to run the cycle backwards. So, since nag-start tayo sa 3, so, magpa-first tayo sa 3. So, maging 3, 7, 2, 6, 4. 3, 7, 2, 6, 4. So, ganun lang po yung pagkuha ni cycle sa permutation. I mean, the inverse of a cycle. Okay? Next. Okay, so solving a permutation equation. So, isosolve natin ito dito, no? Yan. So, we all know that this inverse is the 4, 3, 2. Ito na yun, no? So, teka. Yung 142 square is equivalent to 124. And 234 inverse is equivalent to 432. Ayan. Actually, meron kasi itong problema. Kasi ang alam kong 142, gagawin mong dalawa, computation. Di ba alam natin, wait lang, no? Wait lang. Kasi there's something wrong with this one, yung binigay niya. Kasi ang 142, pag dalawa yan siya, diba, 142. So, 1 mapping to 4, 4 mapping to 2. Dapat, ang answer niya is 2, dapat yan dyan. And then, 4 mapping to 2, 2 mapping to 1. Yan. Then, 2 mapping to 1, tapos 1 mapping to 4. Dapat answer kasi is 2, 1, 4. I don't know why yung answer niyan is nagbigay ng 1 to 4. Baka mayroon kasing corrections to dito. So, I thought I forgot to look for the another answer for this one, no? Okay, give me until, kasi unahin ko muna i-discuss, no? So, assuming lang muna, no, ito yung answers. So, kasi dapat dalawang cycles po, no, yung 142. So, 142, then times 142. So, there is a two product of the same identity. So yun na yung ginawa natin kanina, no? Since, hindi ko pa siya makita kung bakit naging answer niya is 1 to 4. So, ililip muna natin and we will accept na yung answer is 1 to 4. Kasi gusto ko lang ipakita on how you will get or solve the x. Okay? Kasi dapat kasi pag ganito siya, no? 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 2. So, if 1 is maps to 4, then dito, 4 maps to 2. Dapat 2 siya mag-answer kasi siya yung dulo. Hindi siya 1. Pero we will accept na lang muna. So basta ganito, no? Pag 142 squared, ibig sabihin dalawang 142. So 1 map to 4, then si 4 saan magmamap kay 2. So dalawang beses kang magkukuha ng product, okay? So for the meantime, yan muna na i-accept muna natin yung answers niya kasi gusto ko lang ipakita. Actually akala ko na answers ko na check na edit ko na, yung pala hindi pa pala. Okay, give me until mamaya, no? Try ko i-research yan sa Google ng another answers kasi sa isang answer lang na nakita ko to. Okay. So, assuming, no, yung 142 squared, yan, change niya sa 124. So, ito kasi yung given natin, no? So, 142 squared times x is equals to 234 inverse. So, and then we will substitute because we found out that 142 squared is 124 times x, and the inverse of 234 is 432. Okay. Next, since we were going to find the x, so ilalagay lang po natin si inverse dyan. So, since nilagay natin si inverse sa kabila ng equal sign, so therefore, may inverse din po siya dito. Okay? So, since meron na siyang inverse dyan, so this will give us the identity. So, mawawala na po yan. And x will be, ano tawag dyan? Si x na lang po ang matitira. Okay? Kasi si 1 to 4 inverse times the 1 to 4 will give us an identity. And identity can be removed. So, x na lang po ang natira. Next. So, we have here 1 to 4 inverse and the 42. So, we all know that the 1 to 4 inverse is 4 to 1. Diba? Inverse natin, ganyan lang, pagkuha. 4 to 1, then 432. So, paano nakuha si 143? So, yun lang po, no? Yan din di ko kasi mag-detect. Bakit nakuha si 143? So, I will check lang do kasi may problema kasi siya dito. Dito pa lang sa first, meron na siya problema and this one, naging siya 143. Kasi i-multiplying this one, dapat 4 is to 3. Then, wala siyang 3. 4 is to 3. Wala siyang 3 dito. Dapat 3 lang din siya. Okay, so give me leave it muna this one. Ito na lang yung ipapalo ko sa paglagay doon sa ating Google Classroom. Basta ganun lang yung process So yung answer, basta tinuruan ko na yung process. Tapos yung answers, i-change ko lang later on sa ating PDF file and also with the Google. So hanapin ko muna to after the class because I have anong oras na? So, it's already 8:20, no? So, I have only 40 minutes. So, i-continue ko na lang yung iba muna. Okay? So, next. Actually, matatapos na pala. So, after I discuss, no? So, mag-end tayo. Then, give me few minutes to correct this solving of permutations. Pero, hindi na ibig sabihin, mag-meet pa tayo after. Hindi na. So, ipopost ko na lang yung bagong answers nito sa ating Google Classroom. Okay? Wait lang, no?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so since we already discussed the cycles and the transposition, so meron po tayong theorems. So ito yung mga theorems, no? Yung ibang ang mga theorems sa permutations hindi na po natin ni-proof because it was already proven. So at saka ang pinokus kasi ngayon sa ating permutation is on how to get the product, to get the inverse, and to get the mappings. Okay? So take note nyo lang to. So si theorem 1, sinabi that every permutation is either identity. So we all know, no? merong identity permutations. Mapping, every elements map to itself. There is a single cycle. Ibig sabihin, yung nag-iisa lang siyang cycle. For example, 4, 3, 2. O, yan na po yung cycle niya. Single lang po siyang cycle. Or a product of disjoint cycle. For example yan, 1, 5. So, this is the product of disjoint cycle. So, later, makikita nyo yan, yung ano yan, disjoint cycle. Si Theorem 2, every permutation of a finite set can be written as a product of disjoint cycle. For example, no, yan, writing a permutation as a product of cycles. So, i-write natin yung kanyang permutations as a product of a cycle. So, ito yung ating permutation. So, ngayon, titingnan natin. So, 1:6. So, magkikreate tayo, no? 1:6. So, sorry. So, 1:6. So, mauna si 1, then 6. 6:5, then 5. 5:4, then 4. 4:1. So, hindi na ilalagay 1 kasi may 1 naman tayo sa unahan. Okay, so stop. So, ibig sabihin, hindi po nasama si 2 and 3. So, this is the disjoint cycle. Okay? So, next. So, ilalagay natin si 2. 2 is mapping to 3. And 3 is mapping to 2. So, ito po ay isang disjoint cycle. Kasi meron po tayong na-cut na cycles. Kasi meron kasi, pag ganito lang siya, yan, that is a cycle, not a disjoint cycle. So, ibig sabihin, si cycles ay si permutation is a product of a disjoint cycle. Yan po yung disjoint. May na-stop na cycle. And then, ano pa ba? So, ito, no, take note yung 2 and 3, this is a transposition. It's because it has 2 elements. Okay? Next, we have also proposition 2, wherein every permutation is a product of transposition. Yun na yun, no? Transposition. Yan. For example, writing a permutation is a product of transposition. So, we're going to express 2745 as a product of transposition in 2 different ways. O yan. Kasi gagawin natin as a product of transpositions. Diba ang transpositions, 2 elements lang. Okay? O, ano nangyari? 2, 5. And 5, 2. Yan. Ginawa natin 2, 5, 2, 4, and 2, 7. Paano nangyari yan? So, tinanggal, kinuha natin yung first element, tapos kinumbine lang natin dyan. 2, 7, 2, 4, and 2, 5. Bakit nauna si 2, 7? I mean, si 2, 5. Diba sa ating products, yung sino yung dulo, yun po yung mauna. Diba yung pagkuha natin ng product sa P and omega, kung sino po yung dulo, yung po mauna. Kaya nga, siya ang dulo, siya po yung mauna. Then, ang sunod is 4. Then, ang sunod is 7. So, ganun po. Ganun po ang pagkuha ni transposition galing sa cycle. Kasi sinabi dito, we can write the permutation as a product of transpositions. Meron din tayo dito. Yan. Ma'am, bakit may 3636 dyan? Okay. Ganito po yan, no? Diba? Wala po tayong 3 at wala po tayong 1. 1, 3, and 6. Actually, dapat 1 to. Wait lang Bakit 3636? Wait lang kasi dapat meron siyang 1, 3, and 6. So, okay na tayo dito sa 2, 5, 2, 4, and 2, 7. So, nawala si 1 and 3 and 6. Dapat 1, 6, 1, 3. Okay, take note ko muna to Yan. So, we're done with this transpositions, no? So, pwede nating kukunin siya in two different ways. So, ito lang muna ang gagamitin natin, no? So, kasi i-check ko muna to, bakit nangyari, ano nangyari dito. Kasi mostly, pag hindi kasama si 136, kanya man yung mangyari, 136, dapat, ang answers niya is 16 and 13. So, ganun po dapat yan. 16 and 13. Okay? Yan. So, yan po yung magiging answers. So, 25, 24, 27, 16, and 13. Okay? So, that is how you write the cycles into transposition. So, meron kayong different. So, take notes, pwede din, hindi na natin isama yan if ever ito lang ang kasama. If ever ito lang given, pwede naman ito yung magiging answers natin. So, unahin yung nasa dulo. So yung dulo yung 5. So, 2, 5. Then, sunod sa 5 is 4, 2, 4. Then, sunod doon is 7, 2, 7. Okay? So, that is how you write the cycles of a permutations in a product of transposition. O, mayroon pa tayong note. Erase ko lang. So, ang note natin, a permutation is even, yan, if it can be written as a product of an even number of transpositions. A permutation is odd if it can be written as a product of an odd number of transposition. So, for example, no, ilang transposition tayo meron? 1, 2, 3. So, there are 3 number of transposition. Therefore, the permutation is an odd. Ganun lang po yun. Kasi tinan nyo. Permutation is odd. It can be written as a product of an odd number of transposition. So, there are number of 3 transposition. So, add man yung 3. Therefore, this permutation is odd. Pero, pag ang number of transposition is even, like 2, there are 2 transposition, 4, 6, 8, etc., then that permutation is an even, is even. Okay? So, yun lang po yung note dito. Okay, the last theorem is this one, theorem 3 and 4. So, on theorem 3, no matter how identity permutation is written as a product of transpositions, the number of transposition is even. So, take note mo yan, no? Kasi baka magamit natin yan sa pag-proof. Kasi in proving, we can use the theorems or the definitions para masabi natin that is a permutations or ano. Okay? So, theorem 3 states that no matter how the identity is written as a product of transpositions, yung number ng kanyang transpositions is even. So, permutations cannot be written as a product of both an odd and an even number of transpositions. So, hindi po natin makukuha yung, permutations cannot, pag mayroon tayong odd na permutations at saka even na permutations, hindi po natin yan makuha ang product. Okay? Kasi they are not of the same transpositions. Okay, so I guess that's all. So, yung counting cosets, no, sa dulo, next topic na yan. Okay, so we're done. Wait lang, no? So, we're done with the counting, permutations. So, Any questions for regarding sa permutations?
None, ma'am.
Okay, so ganito, no? Thank you for that, Mashas. So, you will wait until Sunday for the activities. Pero unahin ko muna yung pag-upload ng problem set. So, problem set sa final. So, malaman nyo kung finals yun or portfolio. So, lalagay ko final problem set and final set for portfolio or requirements na lang. Ganyan. So, di ba yung sinabi ko last time, no? Magbibigay ako ng 10 sa portfolio. So, hindi na lang, 5 na lang. So, kasi i-combine ko naman din yung midterm finals and the portfolio. So, parang 15 na din yung na-pass yung problem set. Okay? So, there will be 5 problem sets for the finals and 5 problem sets for the um, portfolio or requirements. Okay. So, yung after I uploaded the problem set, I will upload na din yung elaborate activities and the evaluate activities for the permutations. And then, next week will be our last meeting. So, we will not meet anymore after the last meeting. So, what will you do now is updating na lang po tayo sa group chat or sa ating classroom. Doon na po kayo gagawa. The remaining weeks will be uploading all of your requirements. Kasi ako naman, for the remaining weeks, ihinahin ko na po yung pagkuha ng grades, pag-checking yung mga iba pang activities na hindi ko pa na-check at ang pag-compute. Para yung iba na i-upload ninyo on the second week of June, i-check ko at ilalagay ko doon. Yun na lang yung antayin ko para magawa ang inyong grade for this second semester for this Math19 abstract algebra. Okay, so any questions?
None, ma'am.
Okay, if none questions, please open your camera for documentation for this class. Okay, paki-open lang yung camera. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, tatanggalin ko yung presenting para makita natin, no? Wait lang, para malaki talaga. Okay. Smile again. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Okay, guys. Thank you for your time, ha? Stay safe and God bless you. So, meet natin last meeting na talaga. So, we're done. And advance congratulations, ha? Dapat lahat ay may requirements, okay? So, wala naman nang babagsak sa akin pa sa may requirements lang. Pero kung yung mga walang requirements, I still have time to message them and comply, okay? So, see you guys. Stay safe and God bless. And advance congratulations. You passed the Math19 abstract algebra, okay? Thank you and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you
Thank
po,
you,
ma'am.
Bye-bye.
ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I go.